I remember the first motherboard I ever purchased was an MSI board. I bought it because it looked awesome. I love the black and red color scheme. I bought it with an unlocked chipset for an i3 processor, if that tells you anything about how experienced I was at the time. I just thought the motherboard looked awesome, and that was really all I cared about. The feature sets and what I'd be able to use and what I wouldn't be able to use really didn't matter other than how good it looked in my case. And your motherboard should look good in your case, especially if you have a side panel. It's probably the biggest piece of hardware in your entire build. But what if I told you that you could have both the looks and feature support on the best bargain platform out there, all for under $100 US? Do I have your attention yet? This is the MSI B350 Gaming Plus, built specifically for Ryzen 5 CPUs, though any AM4 chip would work fine, including the upcoming Athlon and A-series AMD processors. Just a quick glance and you're bound to fall in love. Even if you hate the overused, overdone red aesthetic, which I get it is overdone, you've got to admit, MSI nailed it in the looks department here. You likely won't even notice the absent rear I/O shield. On the contrary, your eyes are drawn elsewhere on the board, to the quiescent but stated red streaks across the PCB, painted PCIe slots, one of which is steel reinforced, and the understated MOSFET heat sinks up top. Even the chipset spreader, usually covered by the graphics card mind you, looks phenomenal. It doesn't need any fancy LEDs or something crazy to overstate its presence. On the contrary, this is a board built for both connoisseurs and amateurs alike, not only with price and performance taken into consideration, but also those darn good looks. If we could fit this motherboard into a Venn diagram, it'd sit comfortably here. Rock solid. And I'm not being paid to say these things, by the way. I have never and will never ever recommend a crap product, period, no matter how much you try to pay me. I know I'd lose the trust of all of you. It may take 5 years to build integrity, but it takes 5 seconds to lose it. Now in this board's case, the positives do not just stop with the looks. In the performance department, you get what you pay for and then some. Let's start with overclockability. Boasting the Ryzen 5 1600 CPU, which mind you is only a 65-watt TDP chip, I was able to hit 3.9 GHz comfortably. I strived for 4, but I blame this 65-watt TDP, not the motherboard. If you want 4 or above with a 6 or higher core processor on Ryzen's side, then your best bet is probably the better bin 1600X. Nonetheless, this frequency is what I'd expect with a B350 motherboard. Also, with Ryzen tuned to DDR4, this board will support well above 3000 MHz for slight frame rate bumps in games. Now on from that, let's talk about those feature sets. First up, beautiful red LED accents spanning across the red streaks to the left of the board, also a little bit on the right. Nothing too flashy though, and instead of Dr. Debug and a cost-saving measure, MSI has chosen dedicated LED notifications for diagnosing problems with your CPU, graphics card, and RAM. You also get a single M.2 slot with this board, as well as solid 7.1 surround sound support. You'll find 6 fan headers, plenty for a board of this caliber, 2 USB 2.0 hubs, and 2 3.0s. One of these, which I think is super cool, is actually oriented sideways in line with the board. In other words, you don't have to worry about an ugly black USB 3.0 cable sprouting from the motherboard next to your 24 pin. To keep this short and sweet, I really have no choice. It's a motherboard review video after all. You can find additional information via the link below. It's also tied to my Amazon affiliate account, so any purchase made via that link does give me a small kickback, helps me make more videos like this one right here. If you have any additional questions, don't be afraid to hit that comment box down below. I make no secret of the fact that I am a huge fan of this board, both from a price perspective as well as a performance perspective. If you have a Ryzen 5 CPU, don't want to spend as much on maybe an X370 board, but you still want to be able to overclock, you can still do that with the B350 board. Do keep that in mind. If you have a Ryzen 7 CPU, not really interested in some severe overclocking, this would still be a great candidate for you. With that, if you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down for the opposite, click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Something very cool in the works. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.